Shalom. Rabbi Guzik, I guess we've come a long way, haven't we? It's really great to be here. It is Shabbat Chodesh, which means it's the time when we start turning our hearts and thoughts to Passover, and since I no longer have a pulpit, I figured I would take the next 45 minutes to an hour to go through the Picayune aspects of Passover, making sure that everyone is prepared, because that's the traditional slot for this Shabbat weekend. Oh, I heard that I have a very specific time limit, so I will try to keep to that. I want to thank you for having me. I want to thank Rabbi Guzik, Rabbi Sherman, Rabbi Kornsko, Rabbi Taff, Cantor Feldman. I don't know how many more rabbis you have. It seems like 1 million. But the truth is, I want to say to all of you that you're very lucky to have the rabbinic leadership you have, to see the next generation rising, and with their energy and excitement, I'm really excited about where this congregation is going and all congregations are going as the next generation begins to take hold. It feels very, very good. So what I want to do this morning is to describe a little bit about the moment we're in, but more importantly, how to think about the moment that we're in. We are in a dangerous moment. We are in a moment full of fear. It's been 6 months since the worst massacre since the Holocaust. It has been 6 months since hostages have been held in Gaza, in tunnels, in people's homes. It's been 6 months since we've been holding our breath. Not sure who of our community has to serve, not sure when they serve, whether we'll hear from them again, not sure what the next news story is going to be that we have to then combat misinformation, disinformation, and not sure where we as a Jewish community can move forward. It's been 6 months. And we know that the war that is happening in Gaza against Hamas doesn't end at the border of the Rafah crossing. It ends in our hearts and in our minds. It ends in this community. We are in a dangerous moment. We see faculty and students at universities who are Jewish or Zionist being assaulted, harassed, treated poorly, so much so that many of them are thinking of leaving the very schools in which they have entered. We have seen here in Los Angeles and in Hollywood erasure of the Jewish experience, from directors to animators to actors to writers. We have seen across this very community violence perpetrated against the Jews who wish to pray, the Jews who wish to speak their mind. Last year, 2023 itself, was the most violent year of anti-Semitism that we have experienced in Southern California nearly in our history, with 2 men shot and Paul Kessler killed on the side of the road in Calabasas. Federation is here for over 100 years. We are the Jewish community's central address. Many people don't even know what we do, so I'm going to say what we do in one sentence. We transform philanthropy, tzedakah, into a joyous, connected, and safe Jewish life. Every year, all year, every generation, all generations, but especially now. Now when we are faced with this very dangerous moment. Now, how do we think about this moment? Our hearts are filled with fear. Our hearts are filled with trepidation. We know that in the book of Exodus, the Israelites felt that same sense of fear and foreboding. Even after redemption, even after we came out of Egypt. If you remember the famous story, and Rabbi Guzik, you mentioned it earlier, at the base of Mount Sinai, we waited for 40 days and 40 nights when our leader Moses ascended to receive the Torah. There was smoke, there was lightning, there were earthquakes, there was the sound of the shofar, but it was all very far away. This enslaved community sat there day after day with bated breath, and they weren't sure what to do. And in moments like that, you can slip into the moment of the golden calf. the moment of idolatry, when ideology becomes idolatry, when you begin to fill the hole in your heart that fear creates with a material object, and you place all your hopes and your dreams upon that object, you dance and sing around that object, and you become no better than the people that have enslaved you. That's the logic of idolatry. You take no personal responsibility, and you do not need to hope for the future, because your hopes, your dreams, your thoughts, your fears are all placed on a golden calf way up high, and you say, that's God. That's the mover of the world. It's not us. So in moments of dark fear like this one, the very real threat against Jews from other people is only matched by the very real threat and fear we feel ourselves. They might try to divide us. They might try to destroy us. They might try to end us. But we can't let that be the only theme of what it means to be Jewish. If we allow that to happen, we're no better than the Israelites who waited with bated breath and with deep fear at the bottom of Mount Sinai. Many of us are about to have a Passover Seder, and our friends and family will come together. We cannot allow the fear, pain, and anger that we feel outside the world to sit at that table. Now, the corrective to the logic of an ideology of idolatry is found in this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is the building of the Mishkan and the first service that takes place in the Mishkan. The Mishkan is the tabernacle that the Israelites build to support the Jewish community and make a home for themselves and their home for God. In fact, as Rabbi Guzik said earlier today, the very first sacrifice that was brought to the temple, to the Mishkan, was that of a calf. And the Midrash in Tanchuma says it was a repudiation for the golden calf, because it's a different logic. Unlike an idol, unlike a golden calf, the Mishkan represents a tent where we bring people to the table. It represents a place of meeting. It represents where you bring your fear, your joy, your excitement, your sorrow, your sin, your guilt, your shame, and you bring it into a space and share it with other people. And then when you have finished that service, you take the personal responsibility to address your fear, your shame, your guilt, and your sorrow to make the world a better place. We don't need idols, we need mishkans. In 1906, this congregation was founded as the first conservative synagogue in Los Angeles. It has supported one of the greatest Jewish communities the world has ever known. Its rabbis have been some of the most important Jewish thinkers and leaders of the Jewish community in modern history. In 1906, when this congregation was founded, just a few years later, the Federation was founded. In partnership, over 100 years of partnership between Sinai and the Federation. And what we know is in this moment, when we feel that fear, when we feel and we hold ourselves tight with bated breath, when we feel so alone, in many ways abandoned, it is not a golden calf that we need, it is a mishkan, a community. And that the Federation community and the Sinai community are not two different communities, we are the singular community. It is our role as Jews of our generation to build a community that is resilient, strong, joyous, and connected to each other. And so I want to announce today that our federation just this last week released a new $1 million fund in partnership with the Jewish Community Foundation to help pay for additional security costs for every congregation here in Los Angeles. Because we see the needs, we see the fear. and we see the moment that we are in, and we address those needs. We address those fears. It is one of the greatest gifts to be part of the Jewish community. We have to create secure institutions. We have to continue to feed the hungry. We have to continue to clothe the naked. And we have to continue to support Israel. And so before I close, I just want you to think with me for a minute about your Seder table. That in just a couple of weeks, either you will go or you will ask someone to come to your table. And not everyone on that table is going to agree with you on any topic. After all, we're Jews. But I want you to think of when you pick up that shank bone, which represents the zroah, which is God's mighty arm, or the Passover sacrifice. I want you to think of it as not as an arm that smashes, but an arm that holds dear, that reaches into darkness with an outstretched arm and a mighty hand and can pull slaves out of slavery, is the same hand that can pull hostages out of Gaza. It is the same hand that can pull Jews who are suffering out of Ukraine. Is the same hand that can take the 1,000 Holocaust survivors that are barely making ends meet here in Los Angeles and get them a hot meal every single day. Is the same hand that puts 10,000 kids in Jewish schools, 5,000 kids in Jewish camps, takes 3,000 people to Israel every year, trains over 100 leaders to shape this community every single year. That hand is the hand of this community, and that hand, at the end of that hand, is the Jewish Federation of Los Angeles. This is what we do with you, in partnership with you, and in partnership with us as we build a community together. And so as you bring your Seder table together, I just want you to remember one thing. We are in a very dark and scary moment. But we cannot allow ourselves to fall into the ideology of idolatry and place our fears and hopes on a golden calf that allows us to continue to feel alone, that pushes people away, that creates a community that is fractured, that creates a community full of anger and fear. Instead, we build a mishkan. Instead, we build a community. We hold the pain. We endure through it as we always have. And we lean from pain and darkness into light and to joy, because we have always done that from one generation to the next, from our descendants, from our ancestors, and to our descendants. Thank you very much. Am Yisrael Chai.